We all know about the state of media in this country. The high cost of running a TV channel and sensationalism has deteriorated the quality of the news which we consume through these news channels. When I talk about sensationalism, I mainly think about those 9 pm barkings and debates where 20 people come to talk but end up shouting at each other. There are very few people who are working so hard to provide us right information and facts. Today, I talk to someone who belongs to that group but does things quite differently. He's a political satirist. Let's talk to Akash Banerjee, the founder and the host of the Deshbhakt, India's biggest satire platform. I guess, like me, you have a lot of doubts about what is political satire and all. Without wasting any time, let's start the conversation. With that said, welcome to Reinvent. It's so good to talk to you for two reasons. One, as someone who I watch and follow regularly, and two, as a fellow Stephanian. It is really good to talk to you.
My pleasure.
So, my first question is routine, common question that why did you, quit your job? Was that, are you losing that sense of, belonging there, or do you want to start something always on your own or something?
Well, as far as losing the sense of belonging, absolutely not. Even though Radio Mirchi is one of the best places, one of the best media companies that you could be possibly be working with in India. But even then, having said that, there is no loss of sense of belonging. No, actually, I didn't set out to have my own gig. I have always been a worker. I worked in the media industry for close to more than 15 years. And I would have carried on, but I discovered that I've stopped growing. And I wanted to do political satire. And there is no media house in India that would allow you to do political satire. And therefore, I set up what I have set up. So the intention was never to set up anything or quit a job. The intention really, after 10, 15 years of doing entertainment and doing journalism, was that I wanted to do political satire. Since nobody gave me the platform, I had to make one myself.
Right. Before we go into why satire and all, I saw your headline today, news debates and all, like news interviews. You were so serious, right? So from a serious guy to, satirist, was the transformation easy, or do you always have that funny side in you?
No, actually, to be very honest, the journalist side is much, much more heavier than the funny side, to be very honest. Now, I am not funny, but I am very sarcastic. At least that was always there. People who have known me, my ex-girlfriends would tell you that also. Very, very sarcastic. So I've always had that tinge of satire and sarcasm for sure. What happened is, I think when I went into Radio Mirchi after 10 years of journalism, and journalism makes you very, very serious, very, very morose. But what happened is when I went back to Radio Mirchi, I used to be a radio jock a long time ago, and I went back in a managerial capacity. I interacted with so many young jocks. I interacted with such a lot of positive energy. And in radio, you can't officially do news, right? You have to swing your way through. You have to, hint your way through. And that's where my love for, I think, satire really bloomed. When news matches humor, that is what satire is. When you are talking facts, you're talking data, but you're wrapping it up in fun and humor and self-deprecation. I think so. Radio and news television got married, and therefore I landed up doing satire.
Right. To get clarity for the audience and for myself also, does what Hasan Minhaj does is political satire? Can we say that?
I've spent a lot of time in the last 2 years since being a political satirist trying to explain to people what is political satire. So people say, oh, acha, stand up karte ho na? So I'm like, no, stand up is stand up comedy. And I do political satire. Then they're saying, what is the difference? Oh, Cyrus jo karta hai. I said, no, that is also political comedy, but not political satire. So the difference is between a political comedy, a comedy skit that Cyrus does, or a stand-up comic, as the scene has exploded in India in the last 2 years, is that comedy will make you laugh. Maybe it'll send a subtle message. What satire does is lace it with data, with facts, and there is always a deeper point, a much more serious point that a satirist is making, while he may be self-deprecating, while he may be sarcastic. So satire is a different genre than stand-up comic or stand-up skits. And what Hasan Minhaj does is political satire. What John Oliver does is satire. What Stephen Colbert does is satire. So these are the people who I look up to in terms of inspiration. Stand-up comic is a different universe altogether.
Right. I mean, so why did you choose satire? Did you feel that that is a better form of critique? I mean, which national mainstream media is failing to do? Did you feel that there is a need for that?
Yeah, I honestly tell you that you can't choose satire. I really think that this is something that has to be inborn within you. Journalism,
Right.
you can learn. I don't think that you can choose satire. I think satire chooses you. When you have that ability to make fun of an otherwise completely morose situation, a lot of it that we are in right now, when you are able to respect data and facts, when you're able to punch up and not down, when you're able to be deprecative in nature and you have a thick skin, only then will you be able to do political satire. So I really don't think I chose it. I think it was something that just came so well, and thankfully it came to me that I discovered finally after so many years. I mean, I used to think journalism is my calling, but I never got the sense of satisfaction while being a journalist. I think I finally found my calling after 15 years of doing media when I landed up doing political satire.
Right. I mean, while doing satire, while saying things in funny way, right? I mean, as people, we have personal bias, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you, not let your personal bias in your commentary, because the output shouldn't be, shouldn't be like our personal bias coming out, right? It should be by facts and by available evidence, right?
So I get this question a lot, like, you think you are God, you think you are not biased, of course you are, ha ha ha. I'm like, of course I'm biased. I mean anybody who says that they are not biased is lying. So I actually, a lot of times, I make it a point to tell my audiences, here is what I am biased for or against. I am biased against hate and bigotry, sabse pehle. I am biased against hate politics and bigotry in people. Then I am biased against nepotism and favoritism in politics. Then I am biased against politicians who do U turns, politicians who don't keep their promises, politicians who do a shoddy job being politicians. So my biases are very, very clearly written out. But they say, oh, ho, अरे, but you to dodge कर रहे हो, किस party से हो? So when they look at my work, then they realize. So for example, being leftist. So a lot of times I'm called a leftist. And then I have to tell them that, the only time Arnab Goswami in my career in Times Now, which was about 4.5 years, the only time when Arnab Goswami screamed at me was when I went up to his room in the initial months and I said, I don't want to cover the beat you have given me. And he looked up shocked and he said, why don't you? I said, I don't agree with the philosophy of the left. I cannot cover this party. And he gave the screaming of his life. And then I challenge people to show me one tweet that I have done in 10 years. And my Twitter timeline is about 10 years long now. And then they realize, यार इसने तो लेफ्ट के बारे में कभी कुछ बोला ही नहीं अच्छा. So today, in today's day and age, nomenclature and being called names is part of the game. If you ask questions to the government, you're a leftist now. If you ask questions, you're an urban Naxal. If you ask questions, then you have to go to
Right.
Pakistan. One has to grow beyond these labels. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, since you brought that up, and we know that everyone has their own narrative in their minds, and they conveniently choose news which fits their narrative,
Correct.
right? In this
Correct.
case, I mean, do you think political satire is a better option than independent media? Because these days, a hatred towards independent media has also been increasing, right? On the Wire or Newslander or whatever, whatever.
So, who told you that hatred towards political satire isn't increasing? so, so the problem with political satire, unfortunately, is, and if you look at political satire anywhere in the world, in today's democracy, the problem with political satire is that political satire is supposed is the construct of political satire is that it mocks people in power, right? I mean, it used to be for journalism also at one point of time in India. These days, of course, journalism means questioning the opposition. But look at any political satirist worth any salt in any part of the globe, they will be making fun of people in power. That is the basic construct of political satire. Unfortunately, in today's India that we live in, if you make fun of people in power, then of course you are funded by Pakistan, or you're funded by China, or you're funded by the Congress, or you're funded by urban Naxals, etc., etc. The only problem in this theory is that Congress is so good that it can control the narrative, but it could not get more than 45 seats for itself in two consecutive elections.
Right.
But otherwise, Congress is very, very good in controlling the narrative, it seems.
Right. I hope they don't break TVs while seeing your videos.
Well, then they'll have to buy more Chinese TV, because you can't buy a TV in India that does not have Chinese components in them. I tried to find out, and I'm not being able to get an answer. Tell me one mobile phone and one television set that does not have Chinese components in them, and I'm not being able to get an answer.
Right.
So,
I mean, while choosing a content to, show to the people what goes behind, do you choose something which mainstream media fail to, show, or do you choose something where mainstream media has totally misrepresented it, or do you feel like saying it, or what goes behind that?
so unconsciously, what happens is we are covering a lot of stuff that the mainstream media is completely not covering. It's not like we see what mainstream media is doing and then cover what they are not covering. It's like mainstream media is not covering anything worth it. So when the stories that really matter to the nation and to the people, and the big questions that need to be asked, the burning questions that really need to be asked, not to Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, but to, the administration and the government. So we'll end up asking that. But it is not because the mainstream media is not asking it. It's because that is what common sense would dictate for us to ask, and to ask people in power, people who are responsible. So we tend not to ask questions too much to Nehru. We tend to ask more questions to the present day government.
Right. Okay, so coming to the mainstream media, I think you also watched that video where Times Now primetime journalist used that WhatsApp message to read
Yes.
those 30 soldiers'
Yeah, I
names.
tweeted it last night also. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so fake news is something which we all are victims of, right? I mean, it's not that young people are not victims of, everybody is. You make sure that, this doesn't, come in your videos or something, because that is really important to, maintain that trust you built over the years, right?
So I don't know. In the time that I used to do journalism, when I was a journalist, doing something like this would have meant at least somebody losing their job. It would have meant the death of reputation of a journalist. Try doing this trick in a foreign country, and you would be sued for spreading false information. You would have serious repercussions in terms of advertisers pulling out money from the show. But unfortunately, I belong to an age where journalism was about, getting a piece of news, then cross verifying it, sourcing it. But today it seems that basically journalism is WhatsApp running on a television screen. Because if you can take a random WhatsApp, and such a big news with monumental consequences that 30 names have been released by China, names also, by the way, it's not a source based or a hint. It's like a full fledged admission. India screwed us. 30 people died. Here are the names of the 30 people, and we are giving it to Times Now. Not to the government, but we are giving it to Times Now. So somebody with brains would have checked it. Let's hold on to it. This is a WhatsApp message. What is the source? What is the content? Where is it coming from? But it doesn't seem to matter, because you can put any bile on air, it goes the next day. In this remarkable clip, the news itself got debunked by Navika Kumar within 6 minutes, saying that let's hold on to it because it may be a fake. Then why did you put it? So, well, because they got the TRP for the 6 minutes.
Right. So, what kind of research goes into your videos so that you get your facts right?
So, unfortunately for us, it seems that more than political satire, we are the ones who are left doing research, because certainly the news channels are not doing it. So that is why our videos take a lot of time to make. They take a lot of energy and effort to make, is because every video has so many checks and balances that we go through, checks, double check, where is the source of information coming from. So political satire in today's day and age that is calling out fake news has the added responsibility of not getting the news itself wrong. So we have to be extra careful, because we know that if we make one mistake, then people would tell us, dekho, they are the worst fake news peddlers. And then somebody else's 50 fake news will not matter, but one wrong news will matter. So also, you must understand there's a difference between incorrect news being flashed versus fake news. An incorrect piece of news is a genuine error that has happened despite checks and balances. While the issue of fake news that we are seeing is basically peddling a certain narrative, peddling a certain agenda without any respect to facts and figures. Had Times Now made one such error in 1 year or 6 months, it would have been okay. But if you look back and see the kind of reports that have come in, by websites like Alt News, every other week they're making an error like this. Maybe it's deliberate. Who knows? So we have to be very, very careful. We don't want to go that way.
Right. I mean, coming to the finances, I just have two questions. The first thing is for something, I mean, for anyone to start something on their own, money is very, very important. The first question is, did you always know that crowdfunding is going to work? And my second question is that does crowdfunding, create a conscious accountability factor so that you always get your things right?
Okay, so first things first, I was never, 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 never a believer in crowdfunding. I was like, what? People don't pay, which is sort of a fact also. People don't pay. So when I started off, I was like, acha dekhte hain. Maybe we'll do a hybrid business, maybe try to get some few sponsorships in, maybe a little bit of crowdfunding. And I sold my house, and that gave me a runway of about 12 months, 9 to 12 months. So I had 1 year of a time to experiment with this. And within 8 months or so, we had bare minimum money to run a team of two people. So we became sustainable, not profitable, but at least we were managing our expenses. Even now, we are not rolling in money after 2 years, but we have a team of 6, 7 people, right? And that is completely crowdfunded. Once or twice, आ जाते हैं भूले भिसरे, some sponsors come in. So we get a new computer out of that. When a sponsor comes in, we pay for our office rent. So we create a buffer for our office rent, stuff like that. So it is not easy, but for a small outfit that does very niche content, it is possible. The other question that you're asking about is responsibility. Wow, from coming from television, it is a different level altogether. Because when you have platforms like YouTube and Patreon, and there are members, these members have access to you. They ask you questions. They have a right to ask you questions. So anything that you do wrong, you can be walloped by them. And many times I have been checked by them. No, this was too gross. Why are you doing content like this? Do content this, take this subject. So I get a lot of guidance from within the community of members. These are paying members. They put their money where their mouth is. These are not riff-raff commenters, right? So membership works in both ways. You have to respect the members. You have to ensure that your content is crowdsourced to them also. A lot of times we do interviews. The questions come from the members, not from me. They feel very empowered. Wow, we are getting to ask the politician the question. Akash isn't. So that's good stuff. So the rules are changing.
So yeah, this is for my personal thing, for personal interest. I love the Bhakt Banerjee episodes and all.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just very curious to know that do real Bhakts watch those episodes? Because you're mocking them literally there.
I think the real
Do you
Bhakts
get
have a real,
messages or something?
yeah, they have a real problem there. How can they abuse Bhakt Banerjee, you know? So you see, characters are very important. That's why. And Bhakt Banerjee has come up. I mean, he's apparently searched as much as Akash, or a little more than Akash Banerjee. So Bhakt Banerjee is overtaking Akash Banerjee in terms of popularity, and we don't do much of him. I mean, because I mean, a lot of people say that अगर इसको ज़्यादा expose करोगे तो ये तो तुमसे आगे ही निकल जाएगा, and that would defeat the purpose actually, because people love this sort of asinine commentary anyways. So yeah, they love Bhakt Banerjee, and Bhakt Banerjee makes no sense, and he's entertaining. And the only thing that I think we can do in such a situation is, well, be entertained.
So, I mean, since I'm in an arts college or a university where politics is so much into our daily conversations and all, I mean, we are politically conscious unknowingly because that is around us. But if you see a lot of, if I see my friends who are studying in different engineering colleges or whatever, they're generally not politically conscious.
Yeah.
Because they don't allow politics in their universities or anywhere.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to ask is that does political satire is something which can solve this big problem because it is funny and educational at the same point?
So I think we have a lot of young audiences. We have a lot of people who are not into hardcore politics but want to know what is going on. But you are absolutely right. and I think the nation will suffer because of this. That we have stopped doing political activism, political knowledge, political elections in college campuses, saying that they are disruptive in nature. While, of course, everything is not perfect and everything will have some disruptive sense in it, but the fact is that universities are meant for people to broaden their minds. If you are not introducing politics in university, then might as well call it school plus. Call it a school plus or school extended or school plus 3 or 12 plus 2 plus 3. Don't call it a university or a college, because a college is where you become a man, where you explore various aspects, explore where you stand in the scheme of things. And I think it is very, very sad that in today's democracy, it is being encouraged that to question is to question the nation. We've forgotten the division that the government, and the last time it happened was under Indira Gandhi, and that did not end well for the nation. Questioning political leadership is not questioning the nation. Very simple. Even questioning the courts and the army is not questioning the nation. We really need to have that questioning spirit. We did an episode recently that what was the Supreme Court doing when the emergency was going on, and even the Supreme Court has apologized for its role, which in the events that led to the emergency that happened, and that is what happens when you don't question, and that is why you see the press being subverted at this point of time. It is very important for college students to understand what is going on, because they will come out in this world. It may not impact them in college, but then they will at least be able to understand why are they not getting the jobs that they trained themselves for. Because if they don't know the politics behind it, they will never ever get to know the shape of the country. And it's not about अच्छा मेरा हो जाएगा मैं निकल जाऊंगा I'll exit. One has to at least be aware, even if not participative, but awareness is non-excusable.
Right. So, yes, that comes to a point, seeing the arrest that happened recently, which is very unfortunate and which is very threatening to the whole concept of democracy. So, have you ever faced these defamation suits or something? Or was your experience in your media helped you to escape from them?
um, Come again, come once again, I didn't get your question exactly.
Yeah, uh, I heard a lot of defamation cases against this independent media, which is happening a lot, right?
Correct.
So, did your experience in media help you
Yes.
to play the game well so that, you don't go under that mess and all?
Yes. So this is a very standard ploy, and and one is seeing only more and more of it being used every other day. And what we try to do is that we only try to deal with information that is reliable, that is published. Even in satire, we don't go into the defamation mode. We make our argument based on public facts. So defamation is when you're making an unsubstantiated allegation and besmirching somebody's reputation. So, for example, one of the things that we did was on Sambit Patra's birthday, we played 43 on his 43rd birthday. We played 43 of his clips that he had spoken on television, the kind of nonsense that goes on TV. Now, how can a person then go ahead and sue for defamation? Because these are your clips. I have just compiled them together in 15 minutes. So one has to look at these ways. But yeah, defamation, FIRs, sedition, very, very, very real things these days. Yeah.
Right. So, clearly the opposition is very weak. We all know that, and mainstream media is not questioning. So, in future, definitely there is going to be a demand for people who are going to question, right? In that case, do you see political satire or independent media for that, say, with like going to emerge as a new dominant field?
No. I have no doubt or false aspirations to this. Political satire always is on the fringe. It is never the mainstream. Political satire is for people who first understand politics, are okay to have fun with politics. That constituency itself is not the majority constituency. When we cracked 1 million on YouTube, when we cracked 2.5 million across all social media platforms, we were ourselves a little surprised. We've even got to where we are at this point of time. And that's because mainly nobody's talking. So there is, of course, a little lack of competition. But to say that political satire will emerge as a genre or it will remove the 9 o'clock shouting matches. No, that's not going to happen. People are still going to watch that shit. They're going to watch those shouting matches. They are going to feed off, sensationalist stories. Political satire will always be a commentary on what is going on, whether be it media, whether be it judiciary, whether be it executive, whether be it the society. So imagine it more as an editorial and commentary page rather than the main first page. That the news will always remain, for good or for bad, I don't know, but that will remain with the news.
Right. Okay, so in this journey, being in media, then Radio Michi, then establishing your own channel, so what, I mean, there is that kind of relief, right? Creative relief, which you don't have in media per se. So
Yeah.
that did that relief help you to become a better critic of things, or I mean, helped you to become a better creative person?
Somebody was asking, a journalist friend of mine who's still into journalism was like, "Acha, Akash, you're doing this whole thing, but do you miss journalism?" And then I looked back at him and said, I am not even a journalist, but I would have done more journalism in the last 2 years than I would have done in the 10 years that I was on television. Without wanting to do
Right.
journalism, I have done more journalism. I've done more research. I've done more impactful stories. Abhi recently, as a matter of fact, even on social impact, we collected 30 lakh rupees for Karwa Mohabbat to get migrants back home. As a journalist, I would have never been able to do something like that. So it is very liberating. It is very freeing. It is intense pressure. It bogs you down running a small team with limited finances. With YouTube demonetizes our videos because their algorithms don't understand that this is political satire.
Yeah, I
So
was just going to ask
yeah,
that.
so we have to fight with YouTube on a daily basis, literally. Every video is manually then turned into green because we challenge them. We say what is wrong in it, because every topic to them is sensitive. So the automated systems turn everything into yellow, which is demonetized, as in they don't earn money. So we have huge cash flow issues. But the freedom, the liberation, the creative independence is worth it.
Right. And yeah, so this question, I mean, by seeing the incidents over time by the government, nothing seems impossible.
No.
So do you see censorship coming to online soon, or what's your take on that?
Actually, it would have come in already. There was a draft that the government had tried to move that all the web content producers need to register with the government. It is something that the government is actively pursuing. That anybody who does news, current affairs, even people like us, at least that is, it was a little hazy there, but news outlets for sure had to register. Right now, I can open up a news channel on YouTube without asking for any permission. As long as if people are supporting me or I have very clear sources of funding, I can open it up. There is no one stopping me, but the government wants to change that. So rest assured that after print, after television, the crackdown will happen on digital. It's a question of when. When the government gets a little bit of time from CAA, when the government gets a little time from demonetization and GST, when the government gets a little time from taking over other states and maybe dealing with COVID, this will happen because this is the last remaining bastion of free speech in India.
Right. I mean, by seeing all of this, I mean, it seems very scary. Where do you find hope? Because you are actively trying to, change things for better. I mean, for a better world. But when you know things are going to be gloomy, bad, where do you find hope and move forward?
I'll be very honest with you. I do not see myself as changing anything because the minute you start thinking that you have the responsibility of changing something, A, you put yourself on a pedestal, B, you become very
Right.
idealistic. I have a very simple point of view. When I see media today, when I see a Sudhir Chaudhary telling the nation that do not worry, Chinese forces will run away in battle because they are the only sons of their parents. And that is why they have been mollycoddled and brought up in a very sensitive environment. They will leave the battlefield. This happened before they killed 20 of ours. When you
Right.
have him telling about GPS chips, when you have Arnab night after night doing the same show, people still watching it and making it number one. I don't have a problem with what Arnab and Sudhir do. I have a problem with the fact that they are number one. And the rating system may be problematic, but people watch. There's no doubt about it. So I know that this is what people are consuming. This is what people are. You know from your WhatsApp groups and your relatives also how much the influence is. no, it's not like they are laughing at Arnab and Sudhir. They are following all of this. They agreed that yes. And that's why we have so many fights with our relatives, with our friends over politics these days. So I am not trying to
Mhm.
change anything. I am only having a conversation with people who like satire, who would like a different counterpoint of view, and that's always going to be less. But maybe along the way, some people say, "Hi, yaar, the facts that he's talking about do make sense." But please understand, is most of the people who don't listen to facts are the people who are supporting folks for another reason. There is a deeper bigotry. There is a deeper hate in them. And facts changing here and there, and Akash Banerjee coming out with a video is not going to change their support or their mind. They are gone. They are full on supporting because of their deeper bigotry and hatred. So I don't try to change them.
Yeah, maybe we cannot change them.
No, we cannot. But having said that, there is a huge population who are still open to the thought process, whose minds are open, who are willing to debate, who are willing to discuss, who haven't taken a stand, who are not blind. We need to engage with them, and I would rather spend my time with them.
Right. Okay, so this is my last question. What are the plans for this Bhakt in coming year? I hope everything will be fine. So do you want to venture into other platforms or something?
So I don't know if you know this. Vinod Dua, right? Vinod Dua, famous journalist.
Yeah, I heard it.
Was a student from across the road for you, by the way. Okay, so he was from Hindu
Yeah.
college, but that doesn't change the fact is
You
that
were
what
also there.
I was also, yes, I have a unique history, and folks from St. Stephen's College who are listening should know this, that I am something that in olden days in St. Stephen's College is known as a Chavanni Stephanian, who did his graduation from Hindu and masters from St. Stephen's College. I was in Raj South, as a matter of fact, Q8, which is now a girls' block. Uh,
Yeah.
Dr. Baker was my block tutor. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So, there was an FIR against Vinod Dua recently. Vinod Dua happens to be the most decent, most quiet, most apolitical journalist that they can be. So, if there can be an FIR against him for just critique, not anything, not inflammatory or not burning down anything, just for critique of the government. So, I can't tell you the next year's plan for that same reason. Is that anything can happen? Anything can happen. So it depends on how much the people are willing to get up and say that, listen, it's okay that you're in power, but we want to listen to a little bit of critique also, because vote is not equal to blind support. Vote is equal to that we think that you can govern, but we will ask you questions over the next 5 years. I think somewhere down the line we've forgotten that.
Right. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.
My
I hope
pleasure
you
too.
enjoyed it.